We've got a simple 3-stage plan this episode. Step 1, Golem. 2, get the community. 3, upgrade. So why did this plan take me a whole 6 hours? Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of hijinks, deaths, and more importantly, tons and tons of progress. Hey, welcome back. This is the melee only account. My goals for the account are simple: obtain the best endgame weapons and defeat all of the bosses, all while only relying on melee weapons. We're not actually starting this episode off in the temple, even though Golem is the goal. Shh. Our first stop is the Abyss. After defeating Calamitous a few episodes back, enemies in the Abyss drop new resources: Luminel, Depth Cells, and Tenebrous. They're important resources for crafting later, so we'll grab as much as we can right now. So, I want to explain really quickly that every time I want to go to the Abyss, I have to walk the whole way back, past my Corruption, Ice, Astral, Dungeon, Desert, and then finally to the Sunken Seas, where I have to swim all the way down into the Abyss. It takes me about 2 to 3 minutes on average, which isn't so bad, if my stream audience wasn't trying to get me killed. If you remember, the Rod of Discord is a tool that allows you to teleport to the location of your cursor. The problem is, if you use the Rod of Discord in the Abyss, one of the most powerful bosses in Calamity comes and rips your body in half. Oh! Oh! Every Calamity veteran is probably just cheering while I roll in my grave. Anyways, there's some good in all of the trips back. In the same trip of me using the rod, I managed to find my first sand elemental, which dropped the surprise surprise elemental in a bottle. 33% drop rate, so it's not as rare as some of the other items I've gotten lucky on. Either way, it's a summon accessory, so it's off to storage. Okay, since we finished our weekly, bi-weekly detour, I think it's time to go to the jungle to finally take on the temple. Well, first, some more NPC houses, some inventory sorting. I'll take the key and we're off. In the base game Terraria, the temple and the golem are a crucial stage of progress, and is equally true in Calamity mod as well. Behind the golem is a new type of ore, scoria ore, and more bosses. The temple has a variety of traps that can easily be disarmed by cutting the wires. Which will eventually lead to this giant room. At the center is an altar that summons the golem. In Calamity, the threat of the golem is not only the various projectiles that they launch, but the fact that the golem will try to jump on top of you every chance it gets. Adding one to the list. So after a quick platform, here's how it went. And really, there's not even that much to talk about with this fight. First phase is a few jumps and projectiles. Next phase, the head detaches, making the fight more about keeping track of 2 enemies. Then, the head will start moving in fixed positions around the player, attacking and moving faster and faster as their health goes down. With the head defeated, there's not much left of the fight. Nice. Whew. So, now it's time to talk about an item which I've used before, but I haven't really talked about in the series yet. By request of everybody on stream, I took an odd mushroom before refighting the golem. The odd mushroom is a buff that is sold by the Drunk Princess NPC. It offers a staggering 50% increase in damage, but in exchange, it does this. Not only seeing quadruple, everything is in rainbow, so it makes dodging extremely difficult, as you're usually not sure if a projectile is going to hit you or not. I think this item alone reminds me how good the balance in Terraria is. That is to say, even if we sacrifice our ability to dodge, we can still overcome the fights by simply dealing more damage. If we increase player damage just by a little bit, then dodging is less relevant. Then you start throwing in extra stats like defense, buff potion, speed, flight, and then the formula gets incredibly complicated, and yet, each new boss still feels good to chase after. Anyway, I digress. So at the end of last episode, I polled whether or not I should replace the Cryo Stone with the community, and I had overwhelming yeses and 1 no. If you're the one who voted no, please, I'd love for you to leave a comment and see if there's a more fair way that you might have in mind. The idea is that while the Cryo Stone is visually interesting, the community might mean I'm significantly stronger, which may in turn mean more episodes, more content, and more often. So there's at least that trade-off. So I suggested that the best time to get it would be after we overcome the challenge of the Golem, which happens to be where we're at right now. I'm going to really quickly grab some new accessories I can craft after the Golem, and a new set of melee-only armor, Beetle armor. There are 2 variants, one offensive and one defensive. Along with the host of damage-increasing stats, the armor offers a buff called Beetle Might, which increases both melee speed and damage by 10%, 3 times based on damage dealt per second. So my damage should be at peak efficiency right now, which is perfect as I'm going to Leviathan and Anahita to farm the community. I wanted to talk a bit more about the community. First, everybody on stream wanted me to fight the Golem with the odd mushroom effect. I didn't realize how perfect it was until later. Because the buff lasts an hour, I had plenty of time to fight Leviathan and Anahita with the buff. Since the spread of the community is a rainbow glowing stone, the rainbow effect of the odd mushroom feels right. Secondly, the community is an item that grows stronger based on how many bosses you've defeated. I'll flash the stat chart on screen, feel free to pause the video, but essentially it's an item that goes hand in hand with the goal of the series to defeat all of the bosses. And here's the first bag. 3, 2, 1. No. Luckily, the item is only a 10% drop. Second bag is nothing. 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 No go. I don't want to find another. But weaker guys have. Oh! There goes the odd mushroom buff, but I'm determined to get it today. Here's another Anahita, and... Hey! Here's the community. I was starting to get worried that this is going to be another case of the Warriors emblem. And I think this is going to permanently replace our Cryo Stone. Now that that's out of the way, we can finally work on a few upgrades. First off is a quick kill of Calamitous for another broken hero sword. I needed one more for the Tyrant Yarm's ulti sword, which is a powerful sword that fires homing blades which pass through walls. Another is the Terra Lance, which fires a beam that pierces infinitely, though it could be a bit underwhelming when fighting a single enemy. Something I missed from last episode was the new drops in the enemies in the Astral Biome after the Ashram Aurus fight. I got one right now, the Titan's Arm. For enemies that could be knocked back, it shoots enemies straight into the stratosphere at the speed of light. Before I get too distracted farming for one more melee weapon, I'm gonna go back to the Abyss. No, okay, that didn't work. The Golem dropped a new pickaxe tier, which allows us to gather a new type of ore, Scoria ore. Scoria ore leads us to new armor, tools, and weapons. The first few things I made was an accessory, the Void of Extinction, 15% increase in damage, and brimstone fireballs rain down periodically. Next are the weapons. Vulcanite Lance, which causes flares to fly from the sky on critical hits. Another is the Fallen Paladin's Hammer, which combines both the Ponish Hammer and Paladin Hammer from before. Along with being a fast boomerang weapon, it also causes small explosions on hit. And the Hellfire Flame Burge, which shoots flames nice and boring. Calamity is guilty of having too many weapons that are so cool that even decent weapons get sent to storage. The Hydrothermic Armor's set bonus makes melee hits leave Chaos Flames, which simply work to increase their damage output even further. So, one last thing we could do with Scoria ore is to combine it with Cryonic and Perennial bars from before to form a new alloy, Life Alloy. While we'll need a bunch for some higher tier weapons, the most important upgrade we'll make right away is the Life Fruit, which increases our max health by another 25. And 2 more swords as we're running a bit tight on resources. Blade of Enmity is a straightforward sword that shoots no projectiles but has very high damage. Lucretia is a sword that shoots a DNA projectile, but only side to side. On hit, it gives a few seconds of damage immunity, so this might become an interesting utility weapon. The last thing I'm looking for today is the Seashell accessory, which if you recall, I tried to farm for before. On top of the sea snail having the lowest spawn rate, the problem last time was that I kept damaging Anahita, triggering the fight, and dying to the boss, which I still sometimes struggle with, thanks for asking. So we need to make the siren-proof earmuffs, which prevents Anahita from spawning. To make them, we'll need some more living shards from Plantera, and with that, we'll no longer have Anahita spawn. Though, lo and behold, we get a seashell immediately after making the siren mufflers.
Hey, seashell.
Now we combine this with a whole bunch of other accessories to make the absorber, combining all of their effects and, Ancient Manipulator. I forgot that it needs the next tier of crafting station, which we will have access to very, very soon, as our next destination is the dungeon.